So we kind of come back full circle to compartmentalization again, and it just compounds it because you have this military sexual trauma, then the compartmentalization, which is like a repression of, what you're experiencing. We've talked about PTSD, we've talked about traumatic brain injuries, survivor's guilt. Maggie, do you experience folks who are experiencing any of these, and how is that conversation going?
I would say absolutely. So within the VA, is the VA homeless program, it's housing first. So we're visiting with them because they want to work on housing goals, or sometimes we're just doing outreach, trying to see if we can help them engage and initiate service within the VA. But a lot of things will come up, and helping them embrace and accept. I very often take veterans to appointments. I'll wait with them. I'll make sure they get back to where they stay. So I do, as a social worker, feel like, this is an opportunity that I have to not just normalize an experience, but help them embrace whatever they're going through so that I can make sure that they do find wellness. So.
Thanks, Maggie. That was really good, So, and thanks for the work that you do to help us veterans, because we all together is one. I recall, down at one duty station, they having an event that's getting ready to go down. So we have more officers than normal, and we try to eat together where we were doing lunch. So we all try to, when the pilot's coming in, the doctor's getting off, the chaplains, everybody try to get together and break bread together. Well, we're breaking bread, and we have one of the workers. He is there. He's just all of a sudden he just didn't want to talk right now. He just not interested. He's not engaged. Just out the blue. But he was earlier walking over to the galley, and everyone's there, and he just put his hand on his head, and then he just took off running fast as he could. In his uniform. We're all on the military base, and he was thinking like, what is up with him? That's what the other fellows were saying. And it was like, okay, Lori, go ahead, because they know that's what she's going to go, figure out what's going on. So I went back, I went to his office and knocked on the door, and he sat down. He said, look, Commander, I just want to apologize. He said, there's one thing that you don't know, which I don't ever talk about. I don't know what happened, but he was over in Iraq, and he's like, you see that, you have the window, like you see this trash can over here? Well, they just blew up a building that close to me. I don't know. It's just something happened. I hear these sounds, and it's just like I hold my head. And he just start running. He said, I'm so embarrassed. Could you just tell the rest of them? I said, okay. But he never shared that story with me, But because way before I knew about those blasts, those TBIs, and he was one of them to get some help. And then, so because he never got any help, now, he needs mental help, because he didn't get that help early, those blasts, though the TBI is real.
Yes. One of my officers serving under me received a TBI. He was in a Humvee. They were on a patrol, I believe, in Ramadi. And they were going down the street, and it's rubble on either side. It looked like the moon. I mean, it was just level. And somebody jumped out from behind one of these piles of rubble, couldn't have been more than 20, 30, 40 feet from him, with an RPG on his shoulder, and he fired it, and it detonated against the armored Humvee on the passenger side front. So he got hit by TBI. So I've heard from him. He still has migraines, and we gave him a Bronze Star and a Combat Action Badge.
Well, he earned that.
Yeah, he earned it, and a Purple Heart.
And a Purple Heart.
And a Purple Heart. But yeah, it's real. And, the TBI. That's the one instance that I am aware of. But I've seen other instances where people have just had some issues in combat and just like, I want to go home. I've seen that once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when those compartments just start unlocking themselves, and you have no idea what's really going on. I know I have a few friends, when fireworks come. I had one, just hit the deck when the fireworks came, and everybody's looking like, what is going on? And, they peek up to say like, oh, because you also are kind of embarrassed and shame because no one else see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And until they tell their stories, we don't know. Those are the invisible wounds that you do not see. and they turn out to be visible. And then to tell the stories, just those blasts just going off, those fireworks incoming. I had another anesthesia person. He left. He called once, I didn't answer. He called again, I did answer because it was late. And of course he was in Iraq, and he was like, look, I need you to just get to he's from Florida. Can you just tell my mother and my dad I love them? He's giving me all these messages because he didn't want to ward them that late. But he was like, we're taking on incoming. And he was the only anesthesia at the time because they were already out. So to hear these stories after stories, I know for me, guess what? That's kind of burdensome on me as well, because I even have my own, scenario. So it's so good to be in a group, but we vow to help one another. So when the burden gets too tough, let me just give a call. But so those stories are real. So you have all types of veterans. We have unique PTSD trauma.
Well, and it's interesting what you were saying about PTSD a little bit earlier, and I say this as one who has not been in the military. Lori, as you know, my dad was a Marine, but he was out by the time I was born. So as one who has not been in the military, as I consider the concept of PTSD, it's easy for me to say, I understand that there's terror involved with that there's fear, that there's trauma involved with that. But you mentioned something that I think is really interesting, and that's you mentioned shame and embarrassment.
Yes.
And as one not having been in the military, I don't think of that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because again, it's just one more thing or two more things that are adding to the mental stress that veterans are facing.
Maggie, do you ever notice your husband but a heightened awareness?
Oh,
hypervigilant.
Certainly. Yeah, it was very present when he came home from, I think I remember we were living in Campbell, and there was a hurricane right after he came back from the war. And he was ready to just pack us up and head for the mountains because so yeah, there was certainly a hypervigilance that I noticed right away. I'm certainly prone to that secondary traumatic stress.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that. I did a lot of work in the community with spouses of veterans, and that's something that we talk about pretty regularly, is that secondary traumatic stress, that preparation that we do emotionally for how we feel that these triggers may affect our veterans. So
that's a powerful program that you're doing. So one of the things that's always important that I remember is to, just for people in general, just be the chopper that circle back, that circle back for a veteran, be the individual to reach your hand out and help a veteran as they transition back into the civilian world or transition careers, offer a hand and find a veteran to take under your wings. So that's what's always, that just helps me center.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked about a number of things here. What resources are available to our veterans to help with PTSD, help with traumatic brain injury, survivor's guilt? What's out there for our veterans?
Actually, that's here at Family and Children Services, that a veteran could actually utilize our services.
Yeah, and if there's any veterans listening, they have to struggle with the denial and the shame, but there is no shame in coming forward and asking for help.
Yeah.
Instead, that takes like they say in the Army, it takes the strength of a warrior to reach out and say, I need help, and to know that if they are to come here, that they would be treated with respect. He or she would be treated with respect and dignity, and that their sacrifice would be appreciated, and that all are welcome.
Right. That's wonderful.
Certainly. And I think, as I say every time I work, COPES is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think that a lot of times we get to be that first response, that first line response for anyone in crisis, but especially, our veterans that need, being able to answer that phone call or go out on scene and kind of remind them that they have support, they have access to resources in the community that can really be there and provide the needs.
One thing about access to care, the VA, the Department of Defense, they're doing a great job in, creating the different resources that helps. A person can, you have COPES, you have 988, but, that's one of the things that I think that, folks struggle with. Can you talk a little bit, how is it easier with Family and Children's Services?
I like to listen to see if someone is looking for a solution or support. If someone's calling COPES, for instance, and they're looking for resources for support, I mean, there's a long list in our community that I can provide, but sometimes it's a matter of really just providing that ear and listening to exactly what's going on, because there are resources, but I feel like a lot of times it's the connection.
Right.
That's what it sounds like.
Finding that connection. And there's a lot of great places in our community where veterans can connect to the right people, and those people will continue to be consistent in their life and help make sure that they're going to be okay.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go to the VA or the Vet Center. There's other resources like Family and Children's Services that you can get support.
Yeah.
And not just for you, but you may be the family member, because the whole family. Remember, there's a thing called Military One Source, but if you don't know that, but we're right here as well. Family and Children's Services have that same concept where you can get that help for the whole family and not just for that one individual. You may just be the veteran friend, the veteran mom, the veteran brother or sister, because everybody, when one person serves, everybody serves.
Well, Neil, Maggie, Lori, it's been so great having you here today. Powerful insights today, great resources. Is there anything else before we wrap up today?
Sometimes veterans do not reach out and go to the VA. Not only because they think that the people at the VA, they're really hurt. So kind of guilt and shame, but also they believe if they do go, it opens up a set of wounds that they do not want to be open. So the people there, they come back in they might have want to distance themselves because they're either retired, got out, whatever the case may have been, and they trying to put that away, like just cover that up. So basically, when you go back, you reopening those compartments that they don't want open.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that, that you articulated that perfectly, that the idea of reopening those old wounds. Thanks everybody for being here today. Any veterans out there, we do have resources available to you here at Family and Children's Services, and there are other places too, but we are always happy to work with you and to help you in any way we can. Thanks everyone.